In 1996, Australia ordered its subjects to turn in their firearms. And the sheeple dutifully stood in line and turned in their firearms. In 2019, New Zealand ordered its subjects to turn in their firearms. And the sheeple dutifully stood in line and turned in their firearms. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine years ago who said, I don't understand. People of Australia turned in their guns. Why can't they do it in America? Well, I told them, Americans are not Australians. And he responded in a way that never occurred to him. But Americans are not Australians. In America, owning firearms is a right. But did you know in 1689, the British Bill of Rights granted Protestants the right to have arms, as allowed by law. You see, the difference between the British Bill of Rights and the American Bill of Rights is the British Bill of Rights granted rights, granted as allowed by law. And now the British don't have the right to own firearms. In America, the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees the right to keep and bear arms. It shall not be infringed. There's a difference between being granted a right. If you are granted a right, your right can be taken away. If you are guaranteed a right, that is your right forever. There are people who advocate repealing the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. But to repeal the Second Amendment, that would be an extremely difficult process. 2/3 of the Senate would have to agree to the repeal. 2/3 of the House of Representatives would have to agree to a repeal. Then 3/4 of the states would have to agree to a repeal. since half the states, more than half the states, recognize the right to keep and bear arms. They call it constitutional carry. You could carry a firearm without any permit. If half the states recognize the right that you don't even have to have a permit, half the states are extremely unlikely to agree to a repeal of the Second Amendment. Many people rightfully say that without a Second Amendment, there wouldn't be a First Amendment. And that may be true. However, if the United States does repeal the Second Amendment, which is highly unlikely, it would also need to repeal the Fourth Amendment. You see, the Fourth Amendment protects the Second Amendment. Fourth Amendment guarantees the people the right to be secure in their houses and their effects. So if the government decided to repeal the Second Amendment, then they would have to take the firearms. And Americans are not going to dutifully stand in line and turn in their firearms. In 1775, King George ordered his soldiers to seize the firearms owned by the people of Lexington and Concord. When the soldiers marched onto the green, the townspeople, the shopkeepers, the farmers were waiting for them. And that became known as the shot heard round the world. You know, no one really knows who fired the first shot. The British soldiers were highly trained and disciplined. The townspeople were just common people, shopkeepers, farmers, tradesmen. So who do you think fired the first shot? After the first shot, there was pandemonium. When the smoke had settled that day, 73 British soldiers paid the price for committing tyranny. And as they pried the guns from their cold, dead, bloody hands, 49 patriots paid the price for defending liberty. And when the sun set that fateful day, people were no longer British. That is the day that we became Americans. Having the right to keep and bear arms is unique in the world. That is what makes us Americans. In a place called Gonzales, Texas, when Texas was still a part of Mexico. Mexican government told the people of Gonzales, turn in your cannon. People of Gonzales says, come and take it. And they tried. People died. When Janet Reno sent her jackbooted government thugs to seize the firearms, people in Waco, Texas, jackbooted government thugs tried, people died. So if the government tries to repeal the Second Amendment, they'll still have to come and take the guns. And there's over 300 million guns in America. Government tries to take it. People will die. There will be bloodshed. Second Amendment is important. It's what makes us Americans.